All right, I think we're live. Um, Good to have you guys here. Um, I thought I was getting some feedback, but cut that out real quick. Um, Thanks everyone for being here. Um, Please drop your GMs in the chat to let us know you're here. Um, we'll wait a couple more minutes to let everybody join. In the meantime, um, I would like to know from people in the chat. If you want to, you could tell us a bit about your expectations from today, what you hope to learn, um, and also if you already have questions, just go ahead and drop them in the chat, and we're gonna get to them right after the introductions. Um, so yeah, um, let me see. Are we? Oh, we're getting a lot of GMs already. That's good. That's good. Good to have you guys here. Um, Happy to see. Um, I guess I'll introduce myself in the meantime. So I'm Helix. I do partnerships with Metrics DAO. That basically means I do everything that involves collaborations, whether it's event or content. I reach out to a lot of people, go on Twitter Spaces to talk and be an ambassador for Metrics DAO. Um, and I also do, yeah, hosting events, panels like these. I did one for the last cohort as well. Um, I guess you could say I just like talking to people. Yeah, that it's funny, but it's true. Um, so yeah, and I'll be your host for today. I'll be introducing our guests in a bit. But before I do that, we got some announcements. Um, First off, you're taking this course, obviously, but we got more courses coming. But we also launched some new courses already. One on Algorand, one on Ethereum that actually went live today. Um, so it's pretty exciting stuff. Obviously, as an analyst in Web3, you now learned how to use SQL and how to read blockchains, but not every blockchain is the same. Um, so it could be really beneficial to take a course on specific ecosystems as well. So it can really recommend. Um, Other than that, maybe before like joining up for a whole new course, you're like, hey, first, slow it down. Can you just give me a small introduction? Yes, we do that too. You probably already know. We do two webinars every week. In just 1 hour, we give you all the basics on different ecosystems, different blockchains. So we got one Wednesday this week on Solana. We call it Solana 101, all the basics. Then next week we have the same one, but on the Near ecosystem. And later that week we also have a Web3 Analytics 101 webinar. But you won't be needing that because you already did this course, obviously. But who knows? Maybe you want to recommend it to friends. It's a good intro for them. Also, final reminder, or final housekeeping item, I should say, um, is we will be sharing the attendance form in the chat. So be sure to register um, to make sure your attendance is registered. Makes sense, right? I'm going in circles. Okay, that's it for housekeeping and announcements. So with that out of the way, we can get to the real show. I got two really cool guests today, and I'll be introducing them one by one. Um, we'll start with Riyadh. Riyadh Carey. He's a research analyst at Kaiko, where he writes primarily about DeFi. He's been quoted in Bloomberg, CNBC, Business Insider, CoinDesk, and Money Stuff. And previously, he has also worked at the Global Blockchain Business Council as a policy analyst. And he graduated from University of Virginia in 2017, right during the bull market, I think, or right before it actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, welcome Riyadh. How's it going?
Doing really well, and thanks for having.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to have you on. Um, I think it's kind of funny how we got acquainted. Um, I think if I remember correctly, you posted something, or maybe I was reading the newsletter and I reached out to you about it. I found you on Twitter and I was just like, hey, let me connect with this guy. Um, and see what he has to say. I don't remember exactly what our conversation was on. Different things, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, I do remember you reached out on Twitter. You know, probably the best way to make connect. Just if you read something interesting, just like on this interesting and shoot them into.
Yeah, for sure. I guess that's one of the topics we'll be discussing today. How to break into Web3 and how to go about how about go how to go about these things in our space. And Web3 is such a weird or different place, I should say, than the regular world, I guess. Like I've found that barriers here are like so low, like you can basically approach anyone. Um and I think like our acquaintance is a perfect example of that. Can you tell us a bit more about the work that you do?
So, is like a uh, so our uh, customers. So that started with like CFI market data. You know, obviously all the basics, price, volume. The stuff that's really cool that we have is like data. Um, so that gives a really good look into liquidity. We added more DeFi. So we have this as well as things like that, and then we'll expanding to other chains soon. Working
Okay, Rita.
okay.
Um, sorry for interrupting. Can you check your mic? The sound is breaking up a bit.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just try to. All right.
Okay, Riyadh's probably rejoining shortly. Um, hope he'll be back soon. In the meantime, let's continue. Um, DeFi Mochi. He's our our next guest. He's a wizard. Yeah, there's Riyadh again. Oh, that was quicker than I thought.
Yeah. Does that sound better?
That sounds a whole lot better. Thank you so much.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Now I don't know what to do because I just started introducing DeFi Mochi.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Go for that. That's fun.
All right. Yes, I'll introduce DeFi Mochi and we'll circle back to both of you. All right. DeFi Mochi, Doom Wizard. Um, I the way I learned about you was so cool. It was actually Boxer reposted that thread you did, and I read your story, and I was like, okay, this is really freaking awesome. And it was just another example of how fast things can go in this space. So basically, to recap for our listeners and our attendees today, 6 months ago, you were a public transport police officer, if I'm correct.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's correct.
okay, and now you have a following of over 20K uh, followers on Twitter, for creating cool Dune dashboards on Arbitrum and wallet tracking for the community.
Yeah, but I'm definitely not as legit as Riyadh right now.
I'm sorry.
I'm definitely not like as legit as Riyadh, like per se.
I mean, everybody has their own strengths and weaknesses, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
in your case, I think it's really impressive how quickly you've built your following and your audience. And I should also say your prolificness on Twitter. By that I mean how much work and dashboards you turn out.
The yeah. So like recently I've been shit posting a lot, so I don't know how to react to that. But
No, no, I saw you post some dashboards before. But can you take us real quick to like from 6 months ago to now? Like, how did that go? How did that happen?
sure. So actually I'm still in university. So it was actually my first year in university. It kind of still is. And I went to this like CCA fair. So basically there was this like blockchain club in my school. Uh, so those people were really enthusiastic about crypto, and basically got me back into crypto. I was actually just dabbling in it in 2021. Uh, and afterwards, I found Dune, which actually helps to like understand crypto in a less abstract way, instead of just reading docs, and it especially help when trying to understand stuff like VLCVX, VECRV, which is frankly absolutely like complex for the average non DeFi user. And yeah, I slowly continue from there.
Nice, okay. And at what moment did you think like, okay, this is more than a hobby, you know?
Hmm. I guess the time when I felt that it was more of a hobby was when I went to some of the IRL events, and a lot of people started asking me how to uh, get started on Dune.
Mhm.
So like they were really interested in that skill. So I thought that I could use it for more than just like a hobby per se.
Okay, okay. So you found out that other people were actually had a need for your skill, basically.
Right, yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay. Still, I think 6 months is pretty crazy. Quick, how quickly things can change. You know, like a whole, like your career trajectory or your own idea of what you'll be doing. Um, yeah, I quickly want to circle back to Riyadh. Um, before we continue with questions. Um, yeah, so right before the mic issues, I just introduced you. Um, again, real short, research analyst at Kaiko, newsletters. Um, can you tell us a bit more about your work at Kaiko? What do you do? How did you get there, etc.?
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, hopefully the sound's working now.
Perfect now.
Okay, good. Yeah. So as I was mentioning, like we started with a lot of CeFi data, but now have branched more into the DeFi space, which is obviously great for me because that was sort of where my interests lay. And just to give you a sense of my background, after graduating from school, I went to work at a lobbying firm in DC. Um, so I kind of backed into like the crypto and blockchain space. I I saw a job at the Global Blockchain Business Council, and then worked there as a policy analyst. So like was largely tracking um, regulations and legislation from around the world. Um, but then, during that time, I got really interested in DeFi just in my free time during COVID, like couldn't go outside. So, like a lot of other people was, buying shit coins and, doing stuff that I didn't like fully understand at the time, and then sort of leverage that into a job opportunity at Kaiko. Um, and that was largely based on my personal experience in DeFi, like not necessarily work related experience. So I think that's important.
That's definitely important to note. Yes. Um. Okay. So to take it a bit further, because somebody asked this question to you, Riyadh. That Web3 girl asks,
Mhm.
Riyadh, could you talk about your day-to-day role as a research analyst? Yes, I'm curious about this also.
Yeah, yeah. So we have two newsletters. One is like it comes out on Monday. It's like a sort of a broader market trend, um, but like looking at specific topics. So that comes out every week on Monday, and then um, on Thursdays we have a deep dive newsletter, which is like as it sounds, looks more closely at a specific topic. Um, and me and my colleague alternate those deep dives. So, 1 week I'll be focusing on a specific topic. Like the last one I wrote was on just-in-time liquidity on Uniswap. So that'll really just sort of take over my whole week, and I'll spend the whole time, um, you know, really looking at the data from a bunch of different angles. Um, Whereas if it's my off week, I'm kind of searching for like different market trends. And I think a lot of that is honestly based on like the stuff I see on Twitter. If I see something is getting a lot of buzz, I'll check it out and see if there's something interesting going on. But within the realm of like what data does Kaiko have? Because there's certain stuff that we have that's really good, and then there's some other stuff that we don't have that it's not as useful for me to then like look at, which would be something like Arbitrum or something. Like we don't have layer twos yet, so that's better
Mhm.
left to Mochi for now.
Okay, I see. I okay, because I'm interviewing you guys for this panel, and I'm learning as well, just as the rest of our audience. Well, first off, I want to say that Kaiko's actually. It's funny. I was discussing this one time with Hildeby, who was a guest on our previous panel, and we both agreed that Kaiko was actually one of the better newsletters in the space out there. Um, exactly because of what you mentioned, it goes really deep. With some newsletters, you feel it's a bit of basically it's like a sales pitch. They try to pull you in to get you to pay for the real deal, right? But with
Right.
Kaiko, you actually did just like lay it out all on the table and go real into deep. Um, and as um pretty non-technical person, I would say they're like a gold mine for me because that's where I get all my information from, learn a ton. So side note, I would definitely recommend people to sign up for the those two newsletters, actually, the one on Monday and the deep dive. Um,
Thanks. Yeah, that's great feedback. I appreciate that. And glad it's being it's seen as a useful resource for sure.
oh, for sure, no doubt. What I was wondering was, so you mentioned that you have access to certain data, other data you don't. How does that work? Does Kaiko curate its own data? or do you use other data providers for that data, like Dune or Flipside? There's so many out there. How does that work?
Yeah, so all the data that we have is sourced from us. So we're actually like, using exchanges and like taking the data directly from them, and then sort of cleaning it and then um, you know, giving it to institutional clients. And that's sort of what drives whichever new products we offer, which is why like, Ethereum was prioritized, Uniswap, Curve have been prioritized, and then wherever the demand is from our customers is sort of then where we will probably end up offering more data. Um, but again, it's just like a huge technical lift. So that's like really the main thing.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Okay. Yeah, totally get you. Um, DeFi Mochi, how's that for you as in terms of the type of data that you work with and have access to? Um, are you limited in any way, or does anything go? How does it work? Where do you source your data from?
Most of it is just directly from Dune. I'm actually interning right now as well, but I can't really say where I'm interning. But I think most companies will actually have their own ETL warehouse. I think that's what Kaiko does. Am I right, Ria?
Yeah, we run an Ethereum node, so that's how we collect the data for ETH.
Right.
Mm.
So, yeah, they typically have their own data warehouse where they ingest data like that, and I don't actually have access to this sort of thing when posting stuff on Twitter. So mostly just working with uh, existing tools that already have like clean data. So props to Riyadh for like working with raw data. It's really troublesome.
Yeah, luckily we have like a lot of engineers and stuff who help with cleaning the data and making it like presentable for easy to use for clients and things like that. Because as you heard from my background, I'm like not a technical person, so they've made it easy for me. Yeah.
That's really admirable. How many analysts do you have actually? Just curious.
It's
Like,
actually only 4, so yeah, pretty small.
Wow. Right.
oh, and
Um,
it's like for working on like how many chains?
How many? We're just on Ethereum right now, but have a couple in the queue that will hopefully be coming sooner rather than later.
Right. I don't think it will be an issue for you to ingest the other chains because like essentially all are just EVM. I'm not really sure how it works, but yeah.
Yeah, it seemed like Ethereum was like just getting started was the big lift, and now it's more just like, expanding it. Um, but it is confusing, and I would say even like I think people underestimate how complicated something like Uniswap v3 is compared to v2. That was like a lot of what I wrote on last time. It's like it's kind of a black hole, honestly, in the way that it works. And the data sets are huge, because of the way liquidity is added and removed. Um, so I think, yeah, sometimes people it seems simpler from the outside than what it actually is.
Bro, right. Like my colleague was just working on the TVL and he was working on it for an entire month.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
But
Yeah.
because Uniswap kind of just exclude LP fees from their main analytics dashboard, and then their subgraph is wrong as well. So like you can't
Yeah.
actually use balances because you kind of need to exclude the amount of fees that LPs take as well that isn't collected. Am I right about that?
Um, yeah, I mean, we don't actually calculate the fees that they get. But like I've obviously seen like a lot of those disagreements on Twitter over like how we should calculate if LPs are profitable or not. And I think just like the fact that there's that much discussion around it sort of proves that it's like it is V3 is like magnitudes more complicated than V2 ever was, which is sort of interesting, and it could be sort of a trend in DeFi that like things get more complicated, and then it's like you can't really just like look at the chain and understand it as easily.
You guys touch on an interesting point, right? That different projects, different blockchains, they vary in their complexity. Um, for the analysts who are here today, who are like just learning, right? How would you recommend them that they go about expanding their knowledge base, right? How do you pick this up?
I would say, well, I guess you sort of want to think about marginal return too here. Like, so,
Mm.
there's a ton of people who, for example, are really good at tracking like whale wallets, and they'll, have threads on it and do really get good engagement. So like, are you gonna get the best marginal return by like becoming good at tracking whale wallets? Like, I don't know, probably maybe not. But if you're the first person to something like Canto or something before anybody else gets there, and you all of a sudden become like the number one expert on like how it works, whichever dexes are most popular, like I think that is really valuable. So I think I would definitely recommend to like sort of focus on that marginal return aspect.
Right. So by marginal return, you mean like where it's also a timely thing, what gave you a good marginal return a year ago won't do that right now. You kind of have to go for something that other people haven't done yet. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. Like wherever there's sort of a lack of people, analyzing it in like in a critical sort of way, I think is where you can sort of create a lot of value.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. DeFi Mochi, how do you think what do you think about that? Like what's a good way for analysts to, expand their understanding, to stay learning and to make their mark?
I definitely agree with what Bia is saying because
Yeah.
despite there being many like real wallet, like look on chain and maybe like data node, there's different perspectives as to how you interpret the data. This is what I discussed with Via, like the different interpretations of TVL like across the board. Like the Uniswap guys are always arguing with me about like the TVL and like the brand names on my dashboard, but I don't really care. Yeah. So there are actually so many ways you can interpret data. Like daily active users are so different. TVL is so different. So it's definitely really interesting for people to be able to uh, present their own interpretation of the data that is like a bit more applicable to the typical degen. So previously, I was doing a lot more protocol analysis. So Arbitrum protocols like Camelot, Dex, GMD. But like right now, I kind of like cater to a wider general audience, which is like my own whale watching threads, right? So yeah, there's like a different interpretation of the data from, let's say, maybe the constraint which just like presents Etherscan screenshots basically.
Mhm. Yeah, and to be clear, I was like, you're about as good as it gets at the whale watching. So like, I think it's sort of proven that you've done a really good job at it. So the engagement has followed. But like, for future entrants, maybe not the most like lucrative path to go down. If that makes
Yeah, thanks, bro.
yeah.
Nice. Little compliment over there. Um, Actually, more compliments for DeFi Mochi. We had a question. Was DeFi Mochi creating queries every day? Because I'm really curious how to get to his level of proficiency. So again, a little bit of a compliment, but um, yeah, I guess this echoes a bit the question I asked Riyad earlier. What's your day to day like? Um,
Yeah.
Actually, Via, you can go first. I'm so sorry.
Oh no, go for it. Yeah, I'd like to hear.
Okay. So basically, I was like low key addicted to it. So every day I was just watching the uh our network course. I actually didn't visit the metrics DAO course. Sorry that I'm on your part, but I didn't visit the metric DAO course. But yeah, I was actually viewing the our network course and I stopped halfway to start working on some dashboards for projects. Like the first one that I looked at was Frax Finance. But yeah, I wouldn't say I was doing it every single day, but doing it quite consistently for about 3 months.
gotcha.
And I'm also not like a working adult per se, so I'm just like kind of a kid who's in uni, so I have a lot more free time than like say the average working adult.
Right. Okay. What about you, Riyad? You wanted to pitch in as well, I think.
No, I was curious to hear about the day to day as well because
Ah,
yeah, um, I don't know. I guess I sometimes struggle with like how much weight should I put into like following what I see that's interesting on Twitter and how much should it be of just like actually looking at the data. I don't know. I don't know, Mochi, if you have a good read on that, or if you know choose topics based on like anything besides Twitter. I'd be curious to hear.
Actually, I just choose topics based on what's trending on CoinGecko. It isn't anything like complex. Like I don't use like TweetDeck or like some tool to sift out all the narratives and stuff. Just
Okay, yeah, yeah, just whatever's trending that day, basically. Yeah, that makes sense.
okay. I got another question here that kind of want to run with. And I kind of want to preface it. I'll show it here. Um, so the question is, what would you suggest a route would be for data engineers in crypto? I've been doing more analyst jobs, but it's not as much of interest to me. So, and first, I want you want you guys to explain something to me. Um, and this is a genuine question because I'm not a super technical guy. I don't necessarily always know, or I'm not sure if I know what the difference is between a data engineer and an analyst. I mean, I think I know, but I would like to hear from the pros.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm also not a technical person, so I would not be that helpful to talk about this one.
Bro, I think you kind of like understand the data stack, right? Maybe you could because I think you're actually quite familiar with it by the way you talked about it just now.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I think generally like I guess it depends where you're trying to work. I think at a place like Kaiko, like um, we're based in France, so they really try to hire people within France. Um, but they've really put a premium, from what I understand, on like direct blockchain experience. So if you're a data engineer, that's good. But if you're a data engineer with direct crypto experience, that's like a really uh, good resume. So I think something I found too when I was applying for jobs was I would put at the bottom of my resume I had a section that just said like crypto experience, and I put like just stuff that like if you're degen like seems basic, traded on Uniswap provided liquidity, farmed XYZ. I also put like got rug pulled 3 times, and like like that's the kind of stuff that like if someone reads it, they're like, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about, and like he's he's seen it, knows the deal, because a lot of obviously crypto is popular, so people want to join in, and I think the more experience you have and the more you can sort of show that, the better.
I wish crypto was popular, bro. Like I was just at this like fintech event and I told them like I was working in crypto. They walked away.
I mean, I feel that's one of those things that's very crypto is very much a market that's very, very sensitive to the trend, right? So now we're in a bear market, and like some people is to some it might feel like nobody wants a part of you, but when it's the bull market, you're like the popular guy at the party. Like everybody wants to know what's up, which NFTs to buy, or ape into, all the standard stuff. Um, and I guess that's kind of true. Like that's something you have to deal with. But maybe Riyadh's experience is different. Do you feel like we're still um, in high demand or whatever, like however you want to put it?
No, I guess no, that's a good point. Like, I guess, right now everything looks, well, I'd say a little bit better than it did a couple months ago, but kind
Yeah.
of bleak, and that is definitely true. And like now, if you tell someone you work in crypto, they're like, "Oh, how's that going?" I'm like, "Oh, actually, pretty good still."
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
like, you know, still pretty good. But yeah, I think you do have to sort of like be resilient and just like believe in it. Uh, but I would say that like for certain firms like Kaiko, because we have like a pretty institutional customer group, like we've weathered it pretty well, and like you can definitely find those firms that um, you know were responsible through the bull market that are like still hiring now.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that even the fact that there's still activity and things going on in a bull market, and a lot of people are still here. Um, it means it's kind of here to stay. If it wouldn't have, it would be gone right now. It would have gone to zero already. And I also feel like in funnily enough, your head start is actually built in the bear market, because that's when you can get a head start on motherfuckers that will join in the bull when you're already been around here for like maybe a year. um they can really get ahead of people, I think.
Right.
Yeah. To riff off what you were saying earlier about going to a fintech event, and also Riyadh, you mentioned that Geico has a lot of institutional clients. Somebody asked a question. Um, that's this one: how do Web3 jobs differ from threat jobs? Uh, as far as you guys may know, or maybe even have an idea.
Um, yeah, I guess I can't speak to like a pure Web3 job, but uh, sort of from what I've seen is like I guess you could say like traditional companies in the crypto space tend to be pretty startup like, and I would say like Kaiko, you know, based on my experiences, is pretty flexible, and definitely like if I'm comparing it to the like stodgy lobbying association I worked for right out of school, like it's night and day. But again, like if it's a pure Web3 job, like you're just like in DAOs and things like that. Like obviously, it's a different experience. But yeah, from what I've seen, it tends to be a lot more flexible than like my friends who are in traditional finance, for sure.
Cool. Mochi, do you have any? Can you compare the two?
Oh yeah, I actually kind of like wanted to answer the data engineer question very briefly because I'm
Oh,
actually
sorry.
interning as a
Go
data
ahead.
engineer. Yeah, so basically what a data engineer would do most of the time is they work more with like APIs and Python. So typically maybe you would be working more with like the Etherscan APIs. You would also be ingesting your own data into your own ETL warehouse. So a lot of that will be like transforming that raw data into useful data. I would say an analyst would be more focused on working on dashboards. So like uh, already decoded layers, right? So maybe decoded projects on Dune. However, the engineer would most likely be working on much more raw data. So like building up a pipeline to transform that raw data into something useful. So I guess like being a data engineer will let you understand the full stack of how essentially raw data is ingested from the blockchain, like from an RPC like Infura, all the way to like maybe the like final analytics layer, which is the dashboard.
Gotcha. And do you have? Okay, so his question is, what would you suggest the route would be for data engineers in crypto? Um,
So I think a good route would actually be learning Dune, to be honest, and maybe like some traditional Web2 skills like maybe Python or DBT, which is actually a really popular data transformation tool that we use. I think Kaiko might use it too. I'm not sure. I know Nansen uses it.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
yeah, what personally what I would say about this question, the way I read this question is, okay, so if this person is interested, Marco Germanier, um, in being a data engineer in crypto rather than an analyst, um, what I would do is, um, it's not even that. Okay, so you still have to look for the same parties, um only whereas like an analyst would use a Dune or a Flipside or any other data provider to do analysis, you want to go ahead and approach them, because they're the ones who need data engineers, if you ask me. Even in Metrics DAO, I know we do some data curation. We have a data curation pod. There are some blockchains that we curate. So you could even like jump in the Discord um, of Metrics DAO and see if you could start out there, um, and then work your way up from there. Uh, I think there's more than enough opportunities for data engineering crypto as well. Um, di Mochi, did you want to uh, answer this question as well? Did you
Uh,
have any?
as in like how Web3 jobs. Okay, so I think the biggest difference would be like organization would be a lot more flat.
Yeah,
So it'd be like sometimes meetings would like with like even as an intern I meet some founders as well. And be prepared to like have kind of bad sleep because your time zones will be really different across the board because you have some colleagues in the US while you're working in Singapore or like vice versa.
yeah, yeah. That's definitely a thing. I noticed that too. Like, there's not really a clock. Everybody's like working all the time, and um, teams are a lot more like all over the globe. I've noticed that too, and there are like many cultural differences like that. Well, I've not worked in TradFi, but I have worked in a more traditional data company, data analytics company. Um, and like there's so many differences. Like I don't even know. Like everything is different. Like from the culture to the type of people who work there, from um, just the way we go about work. Like in Web3, everything is very flexible. There's a lot of autonomy and responsibility. Whereas in the traditional company, it was a lot more top down. You get told what to do, what's expected of you. And in Web3, it's way more expected of you to actually just that you define your own work, right? That you come up with what you're going to do that week and how are you going to provide value. Um so yeah, I just wanted to pitch in there. Um
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like we're a lot more autonomous, and you kind of like define your own work, and also a lot more agile at the same time. So like if you enjoy the fast pace of like crypto, definitely prefer Web3 job over a TradFi job.
yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
sorry.
Mhm.
No, it's a lot more fast paced. Like at the beginning I had to like get used to it. But it is quite nice, like very dynamic, and it keeps you on your toes, you know.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question from somebody who not who didn't ask it right now, but he sent it in earlier. My Yank, uh, he asked, would it be possible to get an entry level data analytics job or intern position where I can learn more from the experts just after completing the course? Or do I need to have my portfolio ready first? What do you guys think?
I would say you put yourself in the best position like by having a portfolio ready first.
Yeah.
I think like I was lucky because my boss now read the my regulatory newsletter that I used to write at my previous job, so she was like familiar with my writing.
Yes.
That helped a lot in the interview process. So I would think just the more examples you can give um, of work is better.
Okay. Mochi?
Bro, I would just start getting like myself. Like if I were to restart the whole entire thing again, I would do the same exact thing. So like I went to different protocols to do dashboards for them.
Hmm.
So that would actually expand your network because these protocols have VCs as well and devs, and they are connected themselves. And say you let's say you provide value to them by building their dashboards, they also like form really close relationships with you. So like I'm quite close to people from Buffer Finance and Beach Trade. So I mean they'll be more than happy to connect you with some other people. Like let's say you're interested in working for Arbitrum. So I think the best way to get maybe a data analyst role at Arbitrum would be to just like build the shit out of like Arbitrum dashboards, right?
Yeah. I I definitely agree with both of you. Um, this is a question that kind of echoes that, right? Do you have any tips for interviewing for a research analyst role? What's the best way to prepare for them? It's kind of the same question, and like I totally agree with you guys that just like this course is a great start. But this course more about giving you the tools to like make the next step, because you're still gonna have to convince those parties, those people, those protocols to want to work with you, and at the end of the day they'll look at your work. So you gotta be able to show them work, like what have you actually done. what have you actually shipped, what have you built, um, and like it definitely helps if it's like very applicable to them. Um, like as you said, Mochi, like the like if you build a dashboard on some project, like there's almost no way that they won't talk to you, right? It's like what better way to get an interview um than to try something like that.
Yeah, man. Actually, I think regarding the question for the research analyst role, maybe Riyad can answer it better because I haven't actually interviewed for research analyst role myself.
Yeah, I would think like those for more technical roles, like I definitely agree that the dashboard building and stuff is the way to go. Um, I think maybe the research analyst role, especially at Kaiko, I think you really have to be proficient in writing as well, and that's maybe like a skill that like if you're a very technical person, maybe haven't worked on it as much. And I would definitely like say don't overlook like the actual writing aspect because you, it's one thing like if you're making dashboards, that's great, but in the research analyst role, you really have to be able to like explain what you're showing people, um, and obviously it depends on your audience. Again, because Kaiko's is more institutional and like traditional, we try to explain things a little bit more. Whereas if you're working in more like a DeFi native kind of place, then you can be more technical. But I think that's just something to keep in mind is um, consider like your writing skills. Yeah, I think that's the main difference between those like technical roles and research analysts.
You touch on an interesting point, and one that both you and Mochi have in common is that you how do you say it? You showcase your work through writing. Um, how big would you say is that part of your success?
I mean, I think that's huge because um, it is again it's one thing to do great technical work or like find something really cool, but if you can't present it in like a way that hooks people or is super interesting and easy to read, then like people might just not read it. Um, so I think it's important.
Yeah, yeah. Mochi, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. So, like, let's say if you're interviewing for a research analyst role, I think like research analysts at Kaiko or like maybe Blockworks, for example, would definitely kind of book with clients more often. So you definitely be more involved in presentations per se. I think Alex told me that the research analyst role at Nansen involves more of like presentations of data and like basically interpreting it for say institutions. So I definitely would agree that writing is important. But say let's say you're aiming for a more technical role, like maybe data engineer, I would actually like maybe set up a GitHub, maybe do some stuff with like the CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap APIs, and build dashboards and Tune.
Right. Okay. That's a very good point. So that's like a good nuance. I guess the underlying point is that you want your work to be seen, right? You want your work to be out there. And in some cases, writing is a very good way to do that, but it depends a little bit on what your specific role will entail. But the point is more that you find a way to showcase your work. I think that's a very important takeaway for people who are following this course. If nobody can see your work, nobody can see how awesome you are. So you want to enable that. Um, we are closing in on the hour mark. Um, Still got some questions, so I do want to show go through some last questions with you guys. Um, okay, so we get asked, did you find Dune technical to use in the beginning? Question from Mochi.
Yeah, so Dune was slightly technical for me because I jumped right in without learning any SQL. So I definitely took quite a long while to maybe catch the basics. I would actually recommend like just taking traditional SQL callers to like learn the basics. So like maybe joins, uh, union joins, what else? Group by, row number, order by. So like get the basics off first, then maybe go into Dune because in like say Dune you're gonna work with like ether scan, transaction hashes, etc. So I feel like maybe the difficulty would be a step of like say let's say you're just working with like maybe Tableau data where it's like like you just have like customer IDs and purchases, which is a lot more interpretable than say like transaction hashes where there's a lot of gimmicks. Like you might need to use lower cases for certain stuff. You might need to decode certain like logs data. So I definitely recommend like taking a traditional SQL course first.
Nice. Okay. Um, so yeah, it's a bit technical in the beginning, but it gets better like as you learn, right? Um,
Yeah, for sure.
a follow up from that Web3 girl. Uh, she was the one who asked for interviews about research analyst roles. I was told by Blockworks that they like my research articles. Well, first off, like congrats on showing Blockworks your work and hearing back from them. That's major. Uh, but you say they were looking more for dashboards, so I assume I should build both together. So right, you mean combining dashboards and research articles? Um, I wonder what you two guys think about this, but my thought here is just like it depends on like your client or your potential client anyway, and what they're looking for specifically. In this case, it seemed like they did want that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it just really depends on the role. I mean, research analyst is kind of a broad term. So, some places are going to be looking for someone really technical. Other places, technical is not a priority. So I
Mm,
think having the mix and like doing both is just going to benefit in the long run. So I would definitely recommend doing that and like trying to mix. You can maybe like create the dashboard, then take screenshots of it and sort of explain what you're seeing um, from that dashboard and like publish a Medium article or something like that. Or, you
yeah,
know, I think just be creative about how to showcase it.
yeah,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like being creative and trying to get visibility by posting on maybe Medium or Twitter or like Substack. Because I think a lot of companies like typically ask for writings. So yeah, posting something on Medium or having some kind of publication would definitely be very useful.
yeah, for sure. And I would add that um, a lot. This has been on my mind a lot lately. Like a lot of life is about having options and creating options. So it's in this case, this specific person or client, it wasn't a total fit in the end, but there might be a client out there who's like a perfect fit for you for your specific skill set, but you're not gonna discover that if you don't take like lots and lots and lots of shots. So you want to like give yourself lots of chances basically to to draw that lucky seven, let's say. um
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
definitely a big proponent of just applying anywhere that looks like it you were even slightly interested in, because
yeah,
worst comes to worst, like you have the interview and it's not a fit, but I think that interview experience is really valuable.
exactly. Like, that's another point. Like, taking that shot also teaches you something and learns you something. In this case, um, interview experience, and you're already gonna do better in your next interview. So yeah, definitely agree with you there. We're at the hour mark. That went by really quickly. I'm really glad you guys had so many questions. I had a bunch of questions prepared, but I didn't get to any of them, um, because everybody was asking questions, and that's the way it should be. That's perfect, because you guys are taking the course. Um, you've completed the course. Congrats on that. And this is a nice way to wrap it up. For me, it's a very cool opportunity to talk with cool people in the space and learn from them, together with the rest of you. By that I mean like the participants. So thank you for that. Um, Guys, if you don't follow these two guys yet on Twitter, you definitely should. Um, we're dropping, or we have dropped actually. I already saw them in the chat. So you can find them on Twitter. Um, Riyadh, you can find him at Riyadh underscore carry. And DeFi Mochi, you can find at DeFi lower score underscore Mochi, if I'm not mistaken, from the top of my head.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, awesome. But the link should be in the chat as well to make it easy for everyone. Oh, there they are. Awesome. Definitely give these guys a chat, a follow. um, Great content from both of them. I'm really happy I discovered you guys, and it's a great testament. I think that we're having this panel is a great testament to the power of Twitter, because I found you guys to Twitter, and it all happened there.
Mhm.
Um, so thank you both for participating. I could tell our participants appreciate it as well. Got it. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Um, so thanks everyone. And that was it. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks
Thanks
for
so
having me.
much.
Thanks, y'all. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.